meeting, and it is 5:30 p.m. September 30th. So at this point, we're going to go ahead and begin our meeting. We did not have a closed session, as you can obviously see. This is the first time in a long time that we haven't. So we're just going to go ahead and begin the meeting. And to do that, we're going to have to go ahead and establish a quorum in order to continue. So Tricia Z.
Board President Carl Palestrini.
I am present.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines.
On her way, I think.
Okay. Board Member Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver.
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastek.
Here.
Okay. Thank you. We have a quorum, and we're going to go ahead and move to item B on our agenda, which is a motion to adopt tonight's agenda. So could we please get a motion and a second?
Motion to adopt the agenda?
Second.
Board President Carl Palestrini.
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver.
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastek.
Yes.
Okay. So moved. Pledge of Allegiance. I think I saw Principal Lyons out there somewhere. John, would you please do us the honor with the pledge?
Sure. I apologize for the noise in the background. Dinner is afoot. So if everybody would please right hand over your heart and repeat after me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John. Okay, we're going to move now to item E, and this is the board superintendent, the board and the superintendent committee representatives, student representative, ACT, CSEA, all of the organizations have an opportunity here to talk a little bit about what they have been up to or what they have witnessed in the district or anything that they would like to tell you in the community. So let's go ahead and begin with the school board. And Tess, why don't we start with you?
Sure. Thank you, Carl. First of all, I want to thank Shannon Ikimaya, Lily Weisenfeld, and CHS alumni Jonathan Casas Ramirez for their commercial that they did for the Monterey 2020 census. They did a fabulous job, so I just wanted to give them a little shout out. And then on a more personal note, I just wanted to throw it out to the community that there really seems to be a lot of misinformation, specifically when it comes to the role of a board member and what governance truly means. And I just wanted to share that through countless hours of masters in governance training. It solidified my role as a board member that my role is to look out for our students. And the best way for me to advocate for our students is to support and empower the ones who serve them. And excluded from my role are personal agendas, disrespect for the professional expertise of our educators who actually do the work. I will always question what I don't know and seek information, but my job is to really trust them to make sound recommendations based on well thought out practices, and it's our job to support them. The last 2 weeks, I've spent a lot of time visiting, having site visits with some of our schools and principals, and I spent quite a bit of time at River School, Tularcitos, Carmel High School, and Captain Cooper. And what resonated the most for me is walking into a kindergarten class at River School. And that's the first time I have witnessed a teacher teaching with all of her students on Zoom, and my jaw dropped behind my mask. And I had, I couldn't help but well up with tears because I watched that teacher putting her heart and soul into her lesson. And she's on stage, she's in everyone's living room. She's teaching all of her kids and she was giving it her heart and soul. And my heart went out to her. My heart goes out to the kids. My heart goes out to all the parents. This is not easy, but I just wanted to, talk about vulnerability for all of these teachers that are in everyone's living room and are constantly being, praised, but also criticized. And I just would like for people to think about that and take a little bit of pause. Nothing about this situation is normal. And we didn't ask for this. And so we're all grieving and aching for our own kids. And me personally, as a board member, I grieve and ache for all of your kids and our students, our teachers, and our parents as well. My kids are suffering in their own ways. So I guess my point is that we're all in this together, but negativity and criticism and distrust are incredibly harmful to the future of our district. And I just will continue to ask for your patience and your grace as our staff and admin continue to come up with a distance learning plan and a hybrid learning model. And just please give them some space and give them the opportunity to figure it out. Thank you. That's it for me.
Well said. You get a big second from me on that one. Let's go ahead and go with Todd.
Thanks, Carl, and thanks, Tess. That was very emotional. Thank you. I mostly have compliments to pay. I'm going to say first off to Tricia for advancing with the CSEA and the ACT, sort of clarifying the intent and working diligently on what the actual word safely means in the sentence open school safely. This intent lays the groundwork for constructive contracts in the future, and it's something that is not taken lightly, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. The second goes to Blaze and also the teachers. I think this is kind of a little bit repetitive to what Tess had stated, but I'm going to highlight one specific sort of data point that backs this up. So buried in all the contracts on this agenda and ratifications was this little nugget that I found quite remarkable. It's the many hundreds of hours that the teachers and curriculum staff put in during the summer to try our hardest to provide the best remote schooling experience we can until we can safely reopen campus. In the past years, summers are minor hours of professional development, but 2020 was significantly greater hours, and that should not go unnoticed, buried in a ratification on the consent calendar. So I wanted to highlight that. The third goes to Dan Paul and the CSEA. Our overall staff's on-site efforts to keep the campuses kept up to date have been fantastic, right? That allows us to adapt to whatever mode we need, right? Be that full remote or hybrid or full on-site, and making sure that all those pieces are running smoothly. It also allows the administration to adapt quickly without being held up by the campus safety or protective gear. So overall, comparing our district to other districts, while there's always room for improvement, we seem to be facing these challenges with innovative solutions, and I immensely appreciate the continued effort by everybody. That's all I have, Carl. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah?
Thank you, Carl, and thank you, Tess and Todd. And thank you all for joining us this evening. I'd like to start by also paying some compliments. I'd like to start by thanking Tricia Dellis, the staff in the district office, and all of our administrators for hosting and participating in the town hall that we had last week. This was our district's 5th town hall, and I do believe we are doing a much better job at opening the lines of the communication. So for those of you that joined the town hall, I would like to thank you also for your participation, for all the parents who joined. And for those of you parents out there that have not participated, I would like to encourage you to participate so your voice can be heard and you can have the opportunity to ask any questions that you may have, whether it be site-specific questions, curriculum questions, or even questions about the return to school. It's your moment to voice your thoughts and your concerns. So speaking about our return to school, I did receive feedback from the town hall, which I have shared. And those of you that reached out to me directly were very thoughtful and were very kind. And as Tess alluded to today, kindness goes a long way. So thank you for those that did that. I did relay the feedback that there are still some lingering questions about our waiver process and our return to school planning. So tonight, I'm really happy to say that Tricia will have some quick updates about the waiver process and what planning is underway. It is definitely not lost on me that the lines of communication have been frustrating during and throughout COVID-19. There have been At times, more questions than answers, and information changes rapidly, which is why I'm so happy and I'm honored that Trisha and all of the leadership staff and the DO staff are committed to doing one town hall a month. I think this says a lot about our communication initiative and how we want to engage the public and parents. Next, I would like to extend a very big thank you to the River Dads for letting me attend your meeting last week. Your positivity and your enthusiasm is exactly what I needed. Although this is a very difficult and trying time for everyone, I loved that the Dads Club was getting together to plan activities to get kids outside and have some fun and focus on community and focus on solutions for kids, which it was really wonderful to hear. So I would like to thank you all again for having me at your meeting, and I hope to see all of you on the Palo Corona hiking trail wearing blue. And speaking of trying to find sort of the silver lining and positivity in everything that's going on, as I mentioned, I can relate that these are hard times. Whether, as Tess alluded to, whether you have a 7-year-old or a 17-year-old or students in between, we are all struggling. And some days are better than others. And I've experienced highs and lows myself with a 3-year-old at home and 2 13-year-olds. And I believe that nobody's experiences that they're having should be dismissed or diminished. We're all having different experiences in our own lives and what's going on within our own 4 walls. So at the end of the day, since this is a difficult time that we're all going through, what gives me solace and what keeps me going is our confidence that I have in Trisha Dellis, our administrators, and our teachers. And in return, I hope my confidence in these groups gives you confidence if you're out there wondering about our direction and what we're doing. I, for a long time, have always told my kids, you guys have nothing to worry about unless I'm worried about something. And this is sort of like one of those moments. I am not worried about our leadership. I am not worried about our direction. I believe that our staff, our teachers, and Trisha and her teams, they are planning in a way to have our students come back in a healthy and safe way whenever that can happen. So I see the work you're all putting in, and I thank you. I see all of the content being created for distance learning. I see the enthusiasm, I see the energy, and I know it is a tremendous feat what you are doing. And it is overwhelming. It is overwhelming. So I would like to personally thank all of you for leading us down this path. And lastly, I would just like to end with a quote that has been helping me through these times. Maya Angelou said, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. So please, let's build each other up. Let's be kind. Let's have patience and grace, and let's carry with us the confidence in our CUSD leadership and our amazing teachers that are doing everything that they can do to lead us down the right path. Thank you.
Wow. Pretty moving, Sarah, but extremely poignant and well said. Annette?
Wow, it's hard to go after Tess, Todd, and Sarah. You're gonna have to go after all 4 of us, but I think my part will be easier to go after than theirs. All I can say is, besides everything that my fellow board members said, I would like to say that it is it is an honor to be a board member, but it is also one of the most difficult things that you can do, as you can see from the emotion, the thought that went into those comments by my fellow board members. And all I can say is I'm extremely proud to be on a board with them. I won't belabor any more of the points that they have made much more eloquently than I have and than I would have been able to. And they've been out there more than I have, all three of the ones who have been speaking. And I know Carl, I've seen him being involved as well. But I will add that in this year of everything that has changed, I am reminded that all of us have, we have to be in this together. And tonight is our first board meeting where we would have been down at Captain Cooper, and we would have been visiting our first school of the year. And that is something that all of us are very, it's a sad and poignant time for us as well because of that. And, even those of us who don't have children currently understand that being back in school, currently have school kids in school, understand that being back in school is so critically important to all of us. And we're working towards that and doing everything that we can. But bringing home the idea of how diverse our district is, Captain Cooper being, the furthest south of our district and the furthest west, we have such a great district and it is so incredible. And all of our kids come from such different backgrounds, and we're so lucky to have the staff and teachers and administration all the way up to the board who support all of that. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks.
That too, extremely well said. I'm going to go ahead and move to, I'll summarize when we hear from the rest of the people here. Let's go ahead with the interim superintendent, Tricia Dellis, and her report to the community or comments.
Good evening, and thank you everyone who's out there attending tonight. It's been really actually a lot of fun to have so many more participants in this process as we go forward. Now that we're sort of settled in, right? We've learned how to use Zoom, we've learned how to pipe people in and, sort of get our structure down. And so I'm really actually enjoying this forum as well as the town halls immensely. So tonight I want to give the board an update as to where we are as a district regarding the options for reopening schools. And as I do, I'll be referring to this document that's on the screen. And I'd also like to refer people to our website. We do have a COVID button on our homepage that has all of these different documents and resources regarding COVID. So I would refer you to that resource when you're looking for some of the items that we might be referring to when we talk about our processes. So this document is the one that's really guiding all of our schools in Monterey County at this point in time. It was made in conjunction with the health department as well as the Monterey Office of Education. And so I'm just going to review it again quickly. I did send it, I think 2 weeks ago as part of my written communication as well. So you could refer back to that particular email. Number one there is talking about the purple tier and the tier concept. The governor came out a few weeks ago and changed that overall watch list process into a tiered process, and Monterey County continues to be in the purple tier. However, as we all know, it looks like it's ticking downward, and so that's a good thing. That's really positive, and we're happy to hear that it's going in the right direction at the moment. We are able to open schools without the Dr. Moreno's blessing when we get to the red tier, and we have 14 days after that in which the numbers continue to go down. So that's one of our points that we're watching diligently, because we know at that point in time, we could look at opening schools in the hybrid option. The second one I'm going to talk about, I'm out of order, is the cohort model. And that's number 3 on this particular slide. But it is the other option for us that we do not have to check back in with Dr. Moreno's office. We simply make decisions as to what's best for our particular population. And with that, the current cohorts that we've established and we've talked about many times are the teacher and staff cohorts so that our employees may be able to work. And so we have them supervised during that time and supported on their Zoom calls during that time. The other group that we felt needed immediate attention was the group of students who do not have any internet connectivity for obvious reasons, right? We're Zooming, we're doing all of this online, distance learning, and we felt the need to get those children back into the building as well. So those are the two that we have going currently, and we provide transportation to bring those students where we need to bring them. It took us a minute to sort of figure out where the best place was to support these students, as some of them were out in Big Sur, and they wanted to stay in Big Sur at Captain Cooper, even the middle school and high schoolers. And so we tried that for a week or so, but it wasn't working as well. And so now we're bringing those students into the middle school and high school. So there's been a lot of sort of movement around staffing of those cohorts, making sure and adjusting to make sure that we are following those safety protocols as we go along. Like I've said before, we're sort of rehearsing or practicing for when we have more people in the buildings. I do want to give a shout out to the classified classified employees who are currently helping us with those cohorts. They are amazing. They're rocking it. It's difficult. It's hard work. They are supporting the teachers' learning that's coming through via Zoom, but they are having to help. They're taking the parent role, right? So instead of this child being in their home with that parent, this classified employee is trying to keep that child focused and moving forward. They're in a support role, but it's not an easy role. And we've been in conversation with them and trying to support that process. So I do want to thank them. They're the first ones on campuses making this happen. Third, last option that we have is the elementary waiver, which most recently has become a topic of conversation because of the fact that we finally got our numbers low enough in which the health department would actually consider signing off on a waiver. I am, and my staff and all of us are moving forward with the waiver process. And there are 3 overall pieces that need to take place to get us to the next step. It isn't just simply filling out a piece of paper and sending it in. They require me to talk to my unions. So I met last night, Craig Chavez and I, my HR person, we met with CSEA last night to talk about the hybrid model and answer questions about safety and all those things. And it's called consulting with the union. The unions don't have to make a vote or do anything. They just basically are in dialogue, in consultation with us to tell us what their concerns are so that we can better meet what works for them as they come back into the building safely. So we met with them last night. We're meeting with ACT next week. And then the third component of the process is that we have to hear our community and our parents. And so we are planning in October, so after the break, we have a board meeting on October 21st, in which we will be bringing a updated, more detailed hybrid model that we started with months ago. Seems like years ago, actually, but over May and June and July, we were creating this hybrid model that now we're bringing back out and working with teachers and kind of going to that next level of detail. We put it aside because we were told we had to do distance learning. So now we're back in that development process. We will be presenting those models because they're a little bit different. Obviously, my elementary model is going to be a little different than my middle school model, than my high school model. So those models will be coming forward so that the community and the board and parents can see them on October 21st. On October 27th, we will have our October town hall meeting. And so the next night, we will ask for people to come in and engage with us again on these models, ask questions and get their questions answered. Remember, the town hall is the time for you to ask questions and to get answers. The board meeting is not structured in that way. So that's why we're providing back-to-back nights to make sure that people have the opportunity to engage on that. those are the dates that we are hitting. And after we have the October 22nd town hall, we will be giving the parents a deadline to decide whether or not they want to come back into the building in the hybrid model, or if they want to stay in distance learning. That paperwork will be due to the district on October 30th. And so that'll give us another data point as to what are we talking? Are we talking 10% of the people that want to come back in, or 90%? You know, I don't know really the last time we surveyed, and you know, surveys are going to be a little bit more general and people aren't necessarily putting down exactly what, you know, their choices at that point. They're being surveyed. But at this point in time, we're not surveying. It will be a hard decision. It'll be a decision and a point in time so that we can then structure our the distance learning and a hybrid model with actual numbers of students. I've been told time and time again, or asked time and time again, that people need a much more detailed description of hybrid before they're able to give me that answer. And that is understandable to me. So that's what we're going to provide. It's what everyone is currently working on. And so this waiver process and those components of the waiver process are perfect for us right now, because they would be the same type of items that we would be doing when we hit the red tier. They are good practice. They're what we should be doing anyway. So I feel very comfortable moving the waiver process forward. Once we get that number, we'll be sending our paperwork off to the county. We'll see if Dr. Moreno signs off. If he signs off, my understanding, it goes to the state. So I do not have any sort of answers as to how long their process and what the turnaround time is for county and state to reply to our waivers. So, and as far as I know from our county Office of Education, there haven't been any waivers that have been signed at this point in time, but that could have happened this last week, and I just don't have that update. The one school that I know that has students on campus, or these schools that have students on campus, are all using the cohort model at this point in time, to my knowledge. So that is the update for the board as to where we are, where we're going. We are hitting every single opportunity that we can to safely open schools back. And I feel very comfortable with the processes that we're going through to get there. Lastly, I want to say, I really, really appreciate those of you who have reached out recently in such a positive way. This is such a sensitive time, and the people in the system right now, the negativity that's been coming on some level, I believe, is a very small minority of people. And what I'm hearing in the last couple of weeks are the people who are happy. They're happy with their teachers. They're happy with the distance learning that they're seeing. I've heard amazing stories about distance learning. It isn't working for every single child, and I understand that. But what I've been hearing from people is, you know, Trisha, don't listen to just one side. There are a lot of us out here that understand, and we have different opinions. We might not feel comfortable talking in a town hall, or we might not feel comfortable talking in a public fashion. And we might have very different ideas than what you hear from a certain group of people. So I appreciate that, because I know that you're taking time out of your day to shoot me an email or call me on the phone and, you know, just send some positivity our way. And I know that the staff appreciates it as well. So that is my update for the board this evening. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Pretty comprehensive. And I think it's what a lot of people were hoping to hear in terms of progress to date. And we're certainly making progress to date. So I'm going to go ahead and continue. Let's go ahead with Isabella, our student rep.
Hello, thank you.
Mhm.
I'm just going to give a quick update on what we're doing at the high school. We just finished our Start with Hello last week, and we are doing kindness rocks, and we are planning on putting out sticker notes and handing them out around the town with people with the C Carmel stickers on their car. We are planning a distance rally for October 30th, And our clubs are up and running with their Zoom meetings, and our virtual college rep tours and visits are up and running. And Ms. Vita is coming up with really creative ways for students to get their community service hours, including Kindness Rocks and making cards to deliver to our community members in assisted living facilities. And we are also working on postcards with inspiring messages to give out to the student body. And that's all.
Well, it's quite a bit. It really is, especially given the circumstances in terms of communication. So anyway, thank you, Isabella. At this point, let's go ahead with, oh, by the way, I'm gonna add a footnote to the high school. If you're not reading the Sandpiper online, and you can do it, all you have to do is access Carmel High School through the district website. If you're not a parent or if you're not connected, but the writing that is coming out of these kids is remarkable. I mean, it is so well put and so well stated. Alicia Kruger, I think, is this year's editor, and Mike Palshaw is the advisor. But I am amazed at how comparative what they're putting out is to just about anything that's being printed anywhere. It's just so well put together, so well thought out, and just and some of it just flat out a lot of fun. So anyway, check out the Sandpiper. It's online. Let's go ahead with the associations, and let's go ahead and start with Bud Libby. Bud, are you with us? He's the head of the CSEA, California School Employees Association. Bud?
Yes, thank you, Carl. I'd like to start out by thanking Craig Chavez and Tricia Dellis that they did extend an invitation to the entire CSEA group to talk about reopening. It was really well attended and well received. They gave people an opportunity to ask their questions, express their concerns, and get answers from the top, right, from the people in charge. So it really was great. Hope that we can do that again sometime in the near future, that people really did appreciate it. And I as well would like to send a shout out to the classified staff that are working directly face to face with students with connectivity issues and other issues under trying conditions, and sometimes not a whole lot of support. It's all new to everybody, but I really appreciate the way they're hanging in there and working as a team, and it's day by day, work it out as you go. And just want to express that I'm really proud of them, and they're doing a great job. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you. Thank you, Bud. We're thinking about them quite a bit too, really. Do we have a rep from ACT with us? We do. Who will be speaking?
Bill Schreier.
Bill Schreier. Okay, Bill.
Yes.
All yours.
Thank you. Boy, I don't even really know what to say. I had a few things to say, but listening to what was said before, a couple of things come to mind, and that is that this district works really well. When we're all pulling in the same direction, there's nothing we can't accomplish. And the amount of love that we feel for each other, I think you can see that coming through tonight. And I just wish that more people understood that and could see that and embrace it. I know our students do, because I see them every day. And I see how hard they're working to do their best in this situation. And that inspires me to try to do my best. And I guess one thing I do want to say is why I haven't been on for a couple of times is because I found that my collateral duty as association president was getting in the way of my primary task, and that is to serve the students in this district. There is nothing that I will support as the association president that does not directly benefit the students in this district, in my best judgment, and that has overwhelming support from the teachers in this district. I mean, I just want to make that clear. One of the things that I think has happened is that there's been all kinds of suggestions about ulterior purposes. There's one purpose: to serve the students of this district to the very best of our abilities. I really appreciate the comments of the board members. I know on behalf of the teachers, when you say things like that, we feel seen, because every teacher in this district is a first-year teacher right now. Every teacher. Every lesson plan is starting from scratch. The pedagogy is completely different online. And we're doing the very best we can, putting in 12, 14-hour days and maybe more to try to serve the students the best that we can. And we don't get it right all the time. But we use what we learn to try to fix it the next go around. So I guess that's really all that I want to convey, and my gratitude for the classified staff and Bud Libby and his people, and also for administration who are really including us in the process. So thank you.
Thank you, Bill, and well said. I'm going to go ahead and summarize a little bit here. One of the things we're going to do a little differently is in the order of business on the agenda. I think opening it up to discussion has been a good thing, but I was frustrated at the last board meeting because when I called on parents to weigh in, I think they were at a loss because I was asking them to do that based on the title of an agenda item, and I don't think they fully understood what that meant. So my friend Marvin out there got in touch with me and he said, Carl, turn it around a little bit. All you got to do is let the board have the discussion, let the community listen to the discussion, and then ask the parents if they would like to weigh in. And that way they would have a much better understanding of what it is they would like to say and how they would like to impact the board. So we will do that. You know, the other thing too, there is a silver lining on Zoom. I didn't think there would be, but there is. Board meetings in Carmel Unified, and believe me, I have been to many, 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 many board meetings, mostly as a principal, but now as a board member, are not well attended. And there's a reason why they're not well attended. And I think it has to do largely with the fact that we are 640 square miles of district. It's tough for a parent that's working all day to go back home in Carmel Valley and then wind up at a school board meeting that is being held at Captain Cooper. 28 miles to Captain Cooper, another 12 to the Valley, and vice versa for Captain Cooper trying to make it into town to do meetings in Carmel. So it's one of the logistics you have when you have this gigantic school district. So I think the silver lining for me is we probably will wind up doing a hybrid. We will probably wind up, when we do come back in person, probably wind up, or at least I'm hoping we're seriously going to look at it, doing a Zoom with it, an interactive Zoom, so that people don't have to work all day, come home, want to be participating in a board meeting, but either have to be with the kids, the family, and all the reasons that I just stated about distance. So I think in this district, it makes an awful lot of sense for us to be more sensitive to that. It took me a while to get there, folks. I am not the most technically inclined person on the school board. In fact, that is an understatement. Having said that, I'm going to go ahead and mention a couple of other things. The issue of the Padre. We moved the issue of the Padre to Carmel High School about 3, maybe 4 weeks ago. We are developing a board policy, but we're going to go ahead, of course, and let the high school, Carmel High School, deal with the issue, because clearly that's where the issue needs to be. The school board gets that. And we don't make those kind of decisions without input and process. And so I'll summarize a little more, but right now I do have Principal Lyons at Carmel High School on board. And John, talk to us just a little bit about how we plan to move forward.
You bet. And I'll try to make this quick because tip off of the Laker game is any minute now, and I've got that to worry about. So I'll try to go quickly. So based on the request from the governing board, we are looking at the issue of the Padre mascot and kind of our process. I'm gonna take just a quick trip around our kind of process, and then this will all be public probably within the month. But our goal is to form a mascot study group that'll be made up of approximately 15 to 25 individuals spread out over different percentages of current students, current staff, alumni, and hopefully representatives of one of the local history department faculty to give us a historical context of not just the mascot's place at Carmel High School, but the role the Padre had played in history and the avenues that represents. This is going to be a long process. It is not something that's going to be a one meeting and a decision will be made. Our intent is with this study group is to look at a very narrow question, which is to basically determine the viability of the current mascot, not say this is going to be our new mascot, but just answer the question, is this the mascot that we want representing Carmel High School moving forward under 3 very specific criteria, and I'll wrap at this. 1, does the mascot reflect the values of Carmel High School as defined by the school's current mission, which is creating connected citizens, high-level thinkers, and successful individuals? 2, does the mascot support the inclusion of all students? And 3, is the mascot a unifying form or a unifying icon on our campus? Over the course of the school year, we will form this study group that will do some survey work. It'll do some focus group work. There will be a number of opportunities for all stakeholders and all interested parties to weigh in on their experiences at Carmel High School, the identifier of the mascot and how they process it. And at the end of that process, this committee will then determine its findings and make a recommendation to the board based on the discussions. All of our final recommendations, all of our underlying documentation, all the video work that we take when we do our focus groups will be made available for public review. We don't want this to be a secret process. We want everybody to see our process as we go through. The committee will be chaired by myself with assistance from Ms. Powers, our activities director, and we will act as basically the navigators of this process. We will begin that process in the first week of November, most likely with the application to become a member of the committee. That application will be put out via the school's website. It'll be a form that people can fill out. The selection committee will go, which will be made up of myself, Ms. Powers, and Ms. Dellis, to determine the committee, and then we'll begin to move our recommendations forward. I anticipate this process taking the remainder of the school year, and hopefully by the end of this school year, bringing forth an answer to the question about validating the mascot or making a recommendation to move on in a different direction and the underlying reasoning behind that decision. What I'm asking of the community, of our students, of our faculty, and all these different groups is, at this point now, we are very much in the kind of creation of this organization. So if you have specific questions about the process or about what our intent is, you are more than welcome to email me. My email is jlyons@carmelunified.org. I'm also really easy to find on the website, and you can get me there. If you want to have specific questions, because we are trying now to essentially lighten the load, because the decision will be made at the high school, recommended to the board for review. The board's role, as I understand it, is more to review our process and make sure that we follow all the guidelines as outlined. And so, in deference to my friends on the board, this is now going to be a matter taken up at the high school. So if community members have questions, comments, or concerns, they can communicate with me directly via email or by calling me on the phone, Twitter, Instagram, smoke signals, you pick it. So it's all good. I have met with a few individuals and outlined this process who were passionate about this in terms of the original question. And so far we've had a lot of positive response in terms of how we're planning on moving forward. And that's kind of where we're headed. And I will make a full document available outlining our process on the school's website next Monday. That'll be public to the school's website.
Thank you, John.
Hey,
Very.
Carl, can I just add one piece that I think is helpful for the community to recognize, to back up what John's describing, is that we do have our first reading of the red line for the new board policy, which also clearly dictates what John just described. So we are going through that process at the board level, so we make sure that it is handled in the way that John has. So just as a point of reference, later on in this agenda is the first reading of that board policy.
Yeah, and board policy committee, we discovered that we didn't really have a policy that directly related to the naming of a mascot. Buildings, yes, and all of those kinds of things. So for the board to take action on something, we had to have a policy by which to follow. And so you'll be seeing that a little bit later, but I wanted to move this discussion up front in the agenda and not way down in the agenda, because it's something that the community has asked us to do. It's important for the community to understand that the board's not just going to make some kind of a rash decision. The board is going to put it at the feet of Carmel High School, and they will come up with the investigative process, make a recommendation to the Board of Education. So I think we're doing well. I know John has met with those that have brought the petition, and we're underway. You know, if you're interested, folks, in what we're doing, John made a good point. Get in touch. I don't care whether it's the mascot, the school budget, textbooks, what tier we're in, when we're going to open or when we're not. Get to the central office to get some information. That's where you're going to get it. You're going to get it from the people that really know. So that's a really good point, and I'd like to reiterate that. In terms of communication, John, we can let you go to the Lakers if you wish. It's up to you.
Yeah.
And thank you again. For me, yes, Annette. Yes.
I just wanted to add something just to clarify what you had said right before John started talking. I'm not on the Padre mascot issue anymore. I'm back to how you're running the board meeting. And I just want to clarify that you had said that we're gonna, we're learning as we're going on this Zoom and all of that and taking public comment. And I just wanted to clarify that I think when we get to an agenda item, it's not that the board will not be taking action first. The board, when Carl said the board is going first, I believe you meant, Carl, that you're going to have the administration frame the agenda item so that people know what we're going to be talking about. Then the board will be asking any questions, clarifying questions that we might have. And then the public will go in terms of their questions. So they would raise their hand after they hear the description of the agenda item. And then after the public goes, then the board comes back for deliberation and voting on the items so that we can take into consideration all of the public's input. And I just wanted to clarify that, that a little more detailed strategy. Is that correct, Carl?
Well, not only correct, it's probably something I should have made clear to begin with. I was just at the time more interested in making sure that the parents and community had an opportunity to hear the discussion. And you're giving us the actual protocols, which is very good. And I do appreciate that, Annette. But my point really was just to let you know that parents need an opportunity to know what we're talking about. That was my biggest concern. I think that didn't happen last time. And that's on me when things like that don't happen. So thanks for the clarification. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and summarize. It's very heartfelt tonight listening to the school board speak the way they did and the representatives from ACT, CSEA, superintendent. And, I'm in a bit of a box myself at times because you've seen me respond to the Pine Cone and other publications, but, I need to make it very clear that anything that you hear from me is only me. It does not represent the Board of Education. I may be the board president, but I'm speaking as an individual, and I'm hoping to always put that out in front of any of the articles that are posted that people are reading. And actually, I think the Pine Cone did a pretty good job of that, making that comment, because I was very strong about saying we need to get open. We do. We need to get open. The other thing you need to know is we have to do it safely. We have to do it by process. We hear everything on both sides of every issue strongly from people in the community. And probably the person that's in the only person in a more difficult situation than the board is the superintendent, because that's a place where all of it kind of lands, both the plus and the negative, those for something, those against something. So you have to understand that this is a labor of love on a school board, and we get it. I get it. I said very clearly earlier that the youngest kids we have, in my opinion, are the ones that are missing the most. And they are also the ones that are the most difficult for the parents to deal with on Zoom. And it's maturity, it's attention spans, it's all of the things that you get when you raise kids. I raised 4, now I got 3 grandkids. I know all about that. And you know, being around kids for 24 years in this district as a principal, what I miss is them. That's what I miss. They are incredibly, I don't know how to say it, inspirational, funny. It's the social part of being together that really bothers me for them. Sharing ideas together, it's just such a loss for my style of management, which was really much more on the social emotional side of things than perhaps on the curriculum side. Good thing I was able to hire a lot of good teachers on that curriculum side and get good leadership. But for me, it's always been about how do they feel about being there? So we know, I know, that's all I can say, is I'm fully aware of what's going on. And I want to thank the people that do get in touch with me. I get right back to them. Direct them to the right places if they're looking for information. So continue to do that. Use your central office if you have questions about operational things, what we're doing. And I think it's important that you just really do your best to stay abreast with what we're trying to get done. And on that note, I want to thank everybody that's listening, and we're going to go ahead and move to our community forum. I'll talk about a little bit of the protocol here. And the open forum. Anyone wishing to address the board on non-agenda items may do so at this time. Please raise your hand, of course, and feature. And when you're called upon by staff, you have your allotted time. And this is the allotment. Anyone wishing to address the board on non-agenda items may do so. Please use the hands. Then, community members wishing to address the board are allotted 3 minutes per speaker. Please note that speaking time cannot be delegated to another person. Should more than 7 people wish to address any one topic, the board may elect to allot 2 minutes per speaker without taking action by the public items not appearing on the agenda. The point is, we are really here to listen. We're not really here to get into an exchange because we can't talk about things that are not on the agenda. But we are very interested in what you have to say. We are. And because some of the best ideas we get, frankly, come from you. So if you have a comment regarding an agenda item, I think it's probably time for us to go ahead and open up that window, and Tricia Zarovich will be moderating and keeping time. Okay.
And Carl, this is Paul, and I'll be helping Tricia on that.
Sorry, Paul.
And just a couple quick reminders for folks with their hands raised. By the way, Carl, there are 26 attendees showing, and 7 of them have their hands raised. There's actually 8 listed, but it looks like 1 is a duplicate hand raising. So at some point we'll figure out how that duplicate occurred. But just a quick reminder, these are for non-agenda items. If the topic you want to speak about is listed on the agenda, you will have a chance later in the meeting to address those topics. And Carl, you did say a 3-minute limit. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's what we have the timer set.
Just identify your title and who you are.
Oh, thank you. I'm the Chief Technology Officer here and assistant to the board in any way possible.
Wow, that's a very good answer right there. Thank you.
So Jill Lewis, you are up first. And if you would go ahead and unmute. You're on.
Hi, thank you so much. First of all, I just want to say that as a parent who spoke about how hard distance learning is and my children crying and me crying in the mornings, it's really hard to be shamed for that and to say I'm anti-teacher. Just because someone thinks distance learning is hard, it doesn't mean they're anti-teacher. I love my teachers, and I just would appreciate it if you would give a little bit of kind respect to the people that voted you in, because no, you're not working for the students. I've been in government policy for 20 years. I have a graduate degree in it, and you are elected to serve the people, and we are the people, and we are reaching out with our hearts open, and we are nervous about what's happening to our children, and we are saying distance learning is not working, not because of our teachers. We have amazing teachers. It's because it just doesn't work. And so my questions here tonight, and oh, by the way, Maya Angelou also said, each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly, without claiming it. She stands up for all women. And I just have some, they're very long questions, so I put them in the chat in case you don't get all of it. I really think the parents would like to have a date that you'll apply for the waiver, not that you're working on it. I don't know why you said you're meeting on October 30th. That's way too far away for us parents who are living day to day and can't make money with a second parent working and have kids crying every day. We can't wait that long. Please give us a date that you will apply for it by. And by the way, All Saints and all the other schools and 2 in Santa Clara, and actually 4 schools around here have applied, and within 2 days they had notice. So this is not a long process. You can hire a lawyer and be done in 2 days. If we get, this is number 2, if we get into tier 2, do you have a plan to get us back to school immediately? Parents want to know that the plan is already worked out. Number 3, why aren't we discussing the nationwide superintendent search like we did to find Dilvarga? Since we have a $58 million budget and we pay the highest in all of California, there's only a few schools that pay this high for a superintendent, so we can get the very best. We attract the very best. And we would just like, as parents and taxpayers, especially with the deficit we're running, would love to know that we are, trying for that. And then what's your timeline plan to get our seniors back on campus? I've heard that our seniors do not want to leave this school without having stepped foot on campus. And I'm hoping that if you can't get a waiver for them, and that's a totally separate thing, because I understand the waiver is for the elementary students. At some point, if you can't get a waiver for the older kids, could you please put them back with as cohorts? And then 5, the last one is, you projected in a board meeting our reserve that we built on our tax money was 21 million in 2019. And in only 3 school years, it was going to be 11 million. And that next year you would pull 2.2 million out in deficit. And I worry if there's a fire or an earthquake and one of our schools go down, that we won't be able to have enough money for that. So could you please tell the public what's happening on that and what your plans are? Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you, Jill. I do have a comment. Jill, I think it would be a really good idea for you to make an appointment with our chief business officer and get into some of the details of what the actuals are on our school budget. And that's an available service to you as a taxpayer. Okay, next.
Okay, next up we have Anna Williams. I believe Anna is our middle school teacher. Anna, you are up if you go ahead and unmute.
Hey, thanks, Paul. Hello, my name is Anna Williams. I've been a student, a parent, and/or an educator in Carmel Unified for most of my 57 years. I teach social studies at Carmel Middle School, and I'd like to share my current teaching experience. I'm not whining or tooting my own horn. This is just the way it is, and it's one little slice of teacher life. As my past and current site administrators can tell you, my car is often one of the last to leave the parking lot and usually there for a period of time on the weekends. I'm not alone in this time commitment. For me and my colleagues, student learning and health is always job one. Our success as a school comes from 3 principal ingredients: respect, collaboration, and love. Yes, our staff loves each other and we love our kids. Since early June, CUSD employees have been learning how to morph into online teachers, administrators, and support personnel for a year we never imagined. In my 30th year, I feel like a first-year teacher again, as Bill said, lesson planning and revising for hours each day. Every morning, I deliver 4 hours of lessons over Zoom, and I am delighted when I have a real conversation with a few students in a breakout room. The chat is my savior for receiving the thoughts and humor of my 7th graders, and I love 7th graders. Once finished with morning Zooms, I spend the next 5 to 7 hours weaving the tapestry of what it means to teach this year. Coaching and lesson planning with my teacher partner, communicating with students, parents, and colleagues, learning new apps to engage my students, testing another feature of Zoom to increase student engagement, and participating in a variety of online meetings. And I haven't even touched the grading yet. If it's a day I teach from my classroom, on the way out, I say goodbye to the custodians who keep CMS sanitized, and I enter an almost empty parking lot. Our kids are watching us. The way we choose to conduct ourselves while problem solving during this unprecedented time of sacrifice must be with respectful listening and collaboration. Let's work together to give our kids the finest education possible, while also operating with the constraints of community safety and health directives. Everyone is making a sacrifice right now. No stakeholder group gets a break from that. We're all doing the best we can with what we've got. So let's do our best together. I appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Bridget Randazzo, and Bridget's got two devices. Let's try, I'm going to try this one. Bridget, will this work for you?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, there you are.
Okay, great. Sorry, I was having internet issues here. Well, I just want to start by saying thank you to Anna. My daughter had the privilege of being one of Anna's students, and her remarkable teaching and love and care and respect she has for her students is unsurmountable. She's incredible. I just wanted to come on today to express my gratitude to the board and the superintendent, all of our teachers and staff, for their tireless efforts to provide our children with quality and safe education during this extremely difficult time. And I am truly grateful that my children's education and well-being are in the hands of such caring and intelligent educators. And as a teacher in the district, I am equally grateful that I get to work alongside these incredible educators. So thank you, and thank you to the board for your heartfelt sentiments tonight after watching the debate, the divisive debate last night. That is exactly what I needed to hear. And I really, really appreciate how much you care for our students, our community, and our CUSD families. Thank you.
Thank you, Bridget.
Next up, Carrie Schaefer or Carrie Schaefer. Carrie, you are up next if you want to unmute.
Thank you very much. I just wanted to voice my gratitude for all the wonderful things that are being done in our school district right now. You know, it's humbling to know that, you know, with this pandemic, it's affected us all. And, you know, we're all experiencing, you know, grief, and we're experiencing a number of feelings. Our children are experiencing that as well. But what I want to say is that I really appreciate the commitment of the school district. I appreciate the teachers, you know, the joy they have when they enter the classroom. You know, I just don't have that kind of energy, but boy, they do. And, you know, I really appreciate what the school board's doing. I know this is a very, very difficult time, and I appreciate that we are headed in the right direction, you know, that we're making the right decisions for our health and for our safety. And I appreciate that. And I just wanted you guys to know that.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Jill Martin. Jill, if you go ahead and unmute.
I actually didn't have a question, but thank you.
Are you sure? Was it a bunny rabbit or a bird that stepped on your button?
Well, I guess it was my bird. My bird was on my computer. Sorry, everybody. Thank you.
All right. Hello and goodbye. Thanks for being around. Krista, then you are up next. Krista, if you go ahead and unmute, it's your turn.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thank you to Tricia for giving us a little bit more information on the reopening process. I know I've been pushing really hard for the information, and the reason I'm pushing for it is because it's very difficult to plan to have somebody available to help my student, my son, especially the younger one, go through distance learning day by day at the exact same time I'm working and trying to run my business. And you know, I appreciate all the different concerns that go into and all the different issues that go into reopening. But I know as a parent who's just really having a hard time with the struggle with just the schedule of day by day, is that I would just like some solid information. And I appreciate that we know now that it's going to be at least a month until the waiver is applied for, and we're kind of getting close to Thanksgiving. So it gives me some certainty that I know that it's going to be a little bit more time we need to hang in here. So thank you for that. Second, I just wanted to also kind of build on what Jill Lewis had said, and that I hope that criticizing distance learning is not being viewed as criticizing the teachers or the district. I know my fourth grader has a wonderful teacher this year, Elizabeth Marsh. She is going above and beyond to do everything in her ability to teach these children, but it's not working for my son. And so, you know, she's a wonderful educator, and it seems like River School has done such a great job this year of putting together a better plan, but it's just not working for my son. And so while I criticize distance learning, I'm not criticizing my son's teacher. Over and over again, I hear the board, the district saying we know that in-person learning is the most preferable method. And so, you know, my push is I want to know when we're going to get back to in-person learning. And personally, I feel like as soon as the county allows us to, and it's safe to, we should move in that direction. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, right now there's only one other person up. It shows as Ally or ALY on the screen. If anyone else wants to speak, you would have to raise your hand soon, because otherwise this will be the last comment. Ally, if you go ahead and unmute, you are up.
Hi, I'm Allie Kurz, and I'm a parent at Carmel Unified School District. I have a high schooler and one that just graduated. And I first want to thank the school board and the superintendent and all the teachers for everything they're doing during this crazy time. I have a totally different question about, it has nothing to do with COVID or learning on Zoom, but I would like to suggest that Carmel Unified School District upgrade or update their school board model. I would like to see the school board change their model to be similar to every other district that surrounds us, which is that the district is made up of a physical area broken into territories where each territory has a representative or a trustee on the school board. For example, like someone from Big Sur would be on the school board, a couple people from Carmel, someone would be from Kashawa. I feel like this would be equal representation. I feel that it wouldn't feel quite so divisive, and people might feel just more heard. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Well said. Is that summarize it, Paul?
We've got one last person, and I will let them. I'm looking at Shell Rittermall or something like that, but I do not trust my ability to pronounce that. So I'm going to allow you to talk and ask you to unmute, and you can introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Paul. This is Shelley Rittermall. I just wanted, I'm kind of struggling here if I was going to talk or not, but I feel like I need to speak for some of the people who have a lot of concerns that in-person school is not happening. And it seems to me to not be happening for a long time. The waiver process is available at this point for the elementary schools, but Patricia's speaking tonight, it sounds like the parent deadline for the forms is October 30th. So we're talking a month away. Then those forms will need to be digested. And then maybe the waiver will be submitted. And then it will be the holidays. And then it will be the first of the year. And then that's the winter season. And then there will be all these other reasons we can't go to school because, you know, that's the infectious time of year already, and we can't take advantage of the outside because of the weather. And I just feel really hopeless that we're never going back to school in person this year. And even though I kind of feel like a bad guy tonight, like saying that and saying anything negative, because everyone's like, oh, I appreciate the positivity. And I get that. And I am very appreciative of what the administration and staff and teachers and principals have done to make distance learning so much better than it was last year. But the distance learning, so much is lost on it. And I don't think anyone's going to totally disagree with that, but I just wish that there would be more urgency about going back to school in person. I mean, we've had 6 months to try to figure out how to make it safe, and I'm just afraid it's just not going to be happening. And based on our CUSD's demographics and resources and the number of locations in our zip code, I just wish there had been a stronger push to our government officials and to our county specifically that we don't look like the rest of the county, but we are proceeding like the rest of the county. And I just feel like it's really slow. And for all of those that are suffering with this new model that we're having to work on, and within, I run into people all the time. They say they have concerns about COVID, but at this point, they have bigger concerns about their kids not being at in-person school and the current and the long-term damaging negative effects of this academically and socially and physically and mentally, and being on the computer so long every day. So I just wish the waiver process was proceeding quicker than it was, since it is currently available. And again, I do want to thank everyone for all their hard work, but just because I have a concern and negative doesn't mean I don't appreciate everything everyone's doing and all their hard work. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Carl, that is the last raised hand. So
Okay.
that's the end of the comments.
Before we move away, you know, the only bad question is the one that is not asked. And we hear you. And it's tough because there's nothing we'd rather do than make this work for you and your students. So please don't ever apologize for asking what it is that you need to know. So thank you, Paul. Okay, at this point, we're going to go ahead and move to item 3 on our agenda, and that would be the consent calendar for Carmel Unified. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered by the board to be routine and will be enacted by the board in one motion by roll call vote. No discussion of these items prior to the time the board votes on the motion, unless members of the board, staff, or public request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for discussion. Superintendent and staff recommend approval of all of the consent calendar items that are before us. Typically, these are routine business operation types of things that we do at every board meeting in order to move forward. So at this point, is there any questions or comments from the board about the consent calendar? Hearing none, we would need a motion to approve.
Move approval.
Second.
Second.
Okay, Tricia moved and seconded.
President Carl Palestrini,
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastek,
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver,
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur.
Yes.
So moved. Going to move to item 4, special reports and appearances, and it is a site presentation from Captain Cooper School. So Tricia, would you like to introduce this?
Yes, I would love to introduce this. One of our special little treasures in Carmel Unified is Captain Cooper School out in Big Sur. You get out of your car and you smell the trees, pine trees, you know, it's quiet, it's peaceful, it's delightful and beautiful. And then you walk around the campus when you can, and you are encountered by so many committed people who've been there a long time and are dedicated to that population that is so special out there. So I'm going to hand it over to the principal, Lisa Taccone, for her to present. And I'm sure she's going to give us an update as to how things are going on at Captain Cooper right now.
Yes, good evening, everyone. On behalf of Captain Cooper staff, I'm happy to present our successes, challenges, changes, and transformations this year at Captain Cooper. We'll start with changes and transformations. As most of you know, distance learning in the spring did not involve much technology for us. We have very limited internet access in the community. So our staff put together backpacks full of materials. They connected with the students via phone calls and some email and some internet access. And then over time, we've been planning for really 3 different models. We've been planning for a hybrid modified instructional model, a full distance learning model, and without much internet access. We didn't think that was really possible. And then a full distance learning model with internet access. And of course, eventually hoping to return in person. So we started planning for this hybrid modified schedule, and we looked at smaller classes, a modified schedule with students on campus daily. And that's what we're hoping to move into. We also planned simultaneously for the full distance learning model, and we had to transform our instructional practices to be computer-based. We did that not knowing if we could actually implement computer-based practices, but our teachers did the learning to be able to do it just in case. And so what we ended up with was full distance learning for most of our students at home, and some of our students on campus accessing the internet. And we have two amazing instructional assistants, Carolyn Sinclair and Jen Velasquez, who are helping supervise those students on campus so they have internet access. We also have some families who come to picnic tables outside and they access the internet there. Next slide, please. So our distance learning format is currently instructing, learning, and communicating via phone and computer. We're using Google Classroom platform and Zoom meetings, ClassLink programs. We also have books and packets. And of course, our kindergarten teacher, Sharon Zarate, has put together, she's tried to replicate the kindergarten program by putting as many hands-on materials into containers and sending those home with the students and families. I'm sure the kindergarten program's taken over most of their homes. We also purchased through our parent club some non-internet devices for our youngest students that have language arts and math programs on them. Our teachers are doing synchronous and asynchronous teaching. And we have restructured our classes to further reduce the class size and increase support for the students. Our new counselor, our academic intervention teacher, also connect with the students via computer and phone. And here's a screenshot of what one of our classes looks like. I'm sure all of you have seen a lot of this in recent months, but our students are highly engaged in the learning through the Zoom meetings and through Google Classroom. Some of our successes. First of all, we could not have shifted into using Google Classroom and these Zoom meetings without Colin, Annalise, and Jen as our coaches. They have done phenomenal work to support us. And also our teachers at our school, because they were taking these classes and learning and spending the time to set this all up, not knowing if they could use it or not because of the internet access. A high percentage of our students are actually engaged, participating, and attending. And the effective use of technology is happening because of the hard work by the teachers and the coaches. The district has really come through and provided hotspots for our families. It's turned out that, we're in Big Sur and hotspots still don't always work. And that's why we were able to bring in a cohort of students to the school for internet access. And really the success behind everything that's happening right now are those coaches, the teachers, the instructional assistants, our counselors, support staff, and the district office staff. So thank you to all the people that are behind making this a successful experience for our students. Here's an example. Here are 3 photos of 3 of our kindergarten students at home recreating some of the learning that they would have been doing in the classroom, but because our teacher has supplied them with all the materials, they're working with their families to really recreate the program, the hands-on learning. Some of our challenges. Really everything we do right now is a challenge. From the beginning in March, when we moved to distance learning, and really everything we're doing now, everything is a challenge. Implementing this technology platform, doing assessments during distance learning. We, especially the initial LPAC and summative LPAC assessments, we couldn't do the summative LPAC for English learners in the spring. It was canceled at the time, and we didn't have guidelines from the state. So it's taken months for the state to come up with guidelines for us to do remote summative LPAC testing and initial LPAC testing for our English learners. And we finally, just recently, received all the guidelines to either do remote testing or also in-person testing. And so our ELD teachers in the district are starting to implement those assessments. And then just doing language arts, math assessments, the usual formative assessments and benchmark assessments that we do. It was a challenge to figure out how can we do that, because so many of those assessments really are one-to-one in person. Getting internet access to our families is and continues to be a challenge, and we're grateful that we were able to bring up some of those students on campus. Meeting the needs of our English learners and students with 504s and IEPs. It's a challenge because, of course, in-person work with those students is best. And meeting basic needs, the meals, the health and wellness. Supporting our social emotional well-being of our students and families. We have a new counselor, and she's started chats, weekly chats open for the families to contact her. We have our parent group engagement, and it's a challenge for our families once again to connect via Zoom, but we have parents who really are learning some from their own children, how to get on those Zoom meetings and attend our ELAC, DLACs, school site council, and parent club meetings. And of course, the challenge of meeting the health and safety guidelines. And then of course we had the fires and all the smoke. So we actually intended to do outdoor cohorts at our school, because that is really the safest situation. That lasted one day, and then the smoke and fires happened. So we had to move indoors. Here are some examples of our students in a classroom 6 feet apart. These are first and second graders. And you can see they're all at desks with computers. You can see in one picture, there's students standing because even though the teachers aren't with them, they know they need to get these little kids moving. So if you were to observe the situation, they're not always seated in front of their computer. They're standing, they're moving, they're interacting, they're calling out at the computer. It's been a benefit for me to be able to see from behind the scenes, how this is all working for our students and our teachers. And our next steps. We're continuing to implement health and safety protocol and procedures on site, especially keeping in mind that we do want and will eventually have all the students and staff there. So we want to make sure that we're following all the safety protocol and guidelines. We continue to prepare and plan for hybrid and modified school models. We're preparing and planning for a full return to school simultaneously. And we continue professional development for our staff. And of course, there's a technology focus, platform focus now, but we have a new science program and we have a new math program coming up. So our teachers just keep moving forward, and on top of all the layers they continue their learning with all these new programs. And of course, we want to continue to support the social and emotional well-being of students, families, and staff. And this final video I thought was appropriate because it's our kindergarten students from last year. They were little astronauts and they are going to launch us into the unknown. Here we go.
Down, let's count with all our might. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And even though we're blasting off into the unknown, our staff are doing so, working as hard as they possibly can to make good decisions for our students. So thank you for joining us tonight to hear a little bit about Captain Cooper School. Do you have any questions?
Just got something there.
Yeah, Elisa, I had such a great visit with you the other day. I was super thankful that you took the time to meet with me and I got to see what things look like down at Cooper during this impossible time. But one thing you said that really stuck with me, and that was, you know, I met one of your lovely parents and I asked you how the parents are responding to this, because for them, talk about an even deeper learning curve because of the internet access, and some of the parents are not English speaking as well. So I would just like for you to share with everyone what you said to me about how the parents are responding to this new platform and what that looks like for you.
The feedback I'm getting from parents is it's very positive. And they're very grateful for everything we are trying to do to support their children and them during these challenging times. So I do hear a lot of positives. They do want to come back to school. The students want to come back to school. The parents want their kids to come back to school, but they know we are doing our best to make that happen in a safe way.
Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi. Thank you for a wonderful presentation. I always love hearing from you and learning more about what's going on in Captain Cooper. And I just wanted to thank you for everything that you presented here this evening and all of the care that's going into these hands-on learning packets for your kinder students. I just really appreciate how you're engaging all of your students at a level that's really special. And I just, like I said, I always love hearing from you, and I'm looking forward to coming down for a site visit soon as well.
Thank you, Sarah.
And my favorite part was the little space people jumping around.
Our little astronauts.
Little astronauts. Although they didn't look like space people, aliens, but astronauts, sorry.
Elisa, I have obviously, I thought it was a fantastic overview. I also thought it was great. And what you're highlighting there is the innovation that the district's been able to do, from balancing the technology with Paul and his team, right? Colin being able to train the teachers, being able to still have where we can have this balance of trying to figure out, you know, phone, internet connectivity, on site for the cohorts that need it. But I have just one question that kind of is I think central to that, which is sort of the ratio of students that you have who are doing distance learning from home, those who don't have internet and have to do it via phone call, and then those who are able to come on site to utilize the Wi-Fi or have that small cohort. What's the ratio that you have? And I realize it's per grade level, so I don't need anything like that fine of a detail. We just wanted to get a general number.
Well, we have a little over 50 students, and on any given day, we have 14 to 20 students on campus. So those are the students that the internet access is, they either don't have it or it's not good enough.
Yeah, okay.
And the others do have access.
Yeah, okay, that's very helpful. It also frames that appropriately in the sense of how innovative the district has been in trying to solve the needs of the Big Sur community. So I really appreciate that, and something that is just fantastic to see the effort you've put in to make that happen.
It's really almost half the school still struggles with internet access.
Okay, thank you.
You know what, Paul, I don't know if he's still there or not, but regarding the internet connectivity at Captain Cooper, we've talked about that many, many times. And I know that it's improved, but are we in any kind of a plan to try to bring it somewhere up to speed where it's totally reliable?
Captain Cooper is in really good shape. It is a radio signal, and every once in a while the antennas maybe get bumped out of place or lose power. But that's, I don't know, Lisa, maybe happened 2 or 3 times last year.
Maybe 2 or 3, that's it.
Which is similar to what some of other sites experience, just regular. So it's not like what it was. And Carl, this was actually a result of a grant. I would say the construction of that was something like $300,000 that we applied for, that the state gave us. And it has been pretty reliable.
I think, Carl,
just a quick follow-up. In regards to what kids are experiencing in town, what is the real difference between connectivity and speed there, between there and, say, River School?
So at the school itself, for the number of students that we have, Cooper probably has more bandwidth per student than like River School or Tularcitos. So, but I think the issues there are more for the families trying to work from home. And if they live in the wrong canyon and there's no service, then there's no service. And that's the very reason that Elisa's got them coming to school, to take care of that.
And the percentage of families down there, I don't know if either one of you has any idea about what percentage of families you think don't have access to that kind of connectivity, roughly?
Well, Lisa, it'd be roughly equal to the people that you have in the classroom. It is higher than the rest of the district, except for areas like Palo, Colorado and Kashawa. What would you say? 20%, 30%?
Well, a little less than half our students are coming to school for internet access. So that's all I can base it on.
Okay.
So maybe 40% don't have good internet access.
Yeah, it's always an issue for us because we also have second language families that may not have connectivity as well, and so it's kind of a bit of a double whammy, for some of the parents down there. But I know we're doing all we can do, and the grant, by the way, Paul, was a stroke of genius.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, what a wonderful presentation. Happy to see that business is going on. Happy to see that it's a smoke-free environment in terms of, I don't imagine the Dolan fire is impacting the atmosphere much around Cooper, is it, Lisa?
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
Blue skies have come back.
All right. Anyway, thank you very much. We enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Okay, having said that, we're going to go ahead and move to action and discussion. And the first item is item 5, which is the update to the 2021 Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, or the LCP. I imagine that would be Blaze.
That's correct, Carl. How are you?
Very good, Blaze. How are you?
All right. I'm doing well. So, as you know, in the last board meeting, we brought the Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan for public hearing, did a presentation on the plan. And at this point, I'm bringing the plan that was written previously with some very minor tweaks. On the second page, we added, we changed the tense, bringing it to public hearing went to public hearing, so to speak. Made a few adjustments there and some real minor language changes on page 17, talking about the tool, gold book toolkit, one of the SPED resources that we talked about based on some input from some of the SPED staff. And we made some minor changes to the language there. And so what I bring to you is essentially the same document for approval. It is required by the state to be approved by the 30th of September. So luckily, our meeting was tonight and we didn't have to have a special meeting another night. And so if you have any questions, or I'm here. No formal presentation. We did that at the hearing.
Well, I'm happy we met the deadline right on the money. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And it's ready to go. So I think we're all pretty familiar with it, unless anyone on the board does have a question for Blaze.
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve the update to the 2020-2021 Learning Continuity and Attendance Plan, LCP.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Tricia?
Board President Carl Palestrini,
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver,
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eustak,
Yes.
and Board Member Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Blaze. Okay, we're going to move to item B, which is the first reading of the California School Board, a quarterly update of board policies, and Exhibit E. Who has this one?
That would be me, Carl.
Okay, all you.
So this is the first reading of, I think 19 or 20 policies that we are catching up on. I think this gets us to July. So we'll be bringing July's and possibly another grouping to start next. But we got a little behind when we were out with quarantine. So our committee came together, and Tess Arthur and Annette are both on that committee with us, as well as the cabinet members. We go through every new board policy that CSBA sends to us. We have conversation around it. We make sure that it aligns with the previous policy that might have particular special to our district, and have discussion around it. And so these have been vetted by the board policy committee, and they come to you tonight for first reading. If you have any issues or questions or changes or things that you might have, please contact me and I will work through those with you before the next board meeting, which would be the second. And I'm sure you probably want to highlight, it's already been highlighted, but the board policy in relation to the mascot name changes included in this, which is just another one of the steps we need to go through to get us to where we need to go there.
Okay.
Can I piggyback on what Tricia just said, just so the public can have a broader sense of what it means to be on the policy review committee? And Annette, feel free to chime in when I'm done. Is that okay, Carl?
No, absolutely.
Okay. So in regards to the meeting, so the district receives quarterly updates from CSBA Gamut, which is basically the platform that houses all of our policies. And sometimes these are special releases depending on the changes in the law. For example, the passing of different assembly bills. And the CSBA, which is the California School Boards Association, is the base and guideline for us. But on occasion, some are customized to CUSD specifically. For example, Board Policy 7310, which is the naming of a facility, we added a new roadmap for naming of mascots, including a mascot change request form. And so tonight is obviously the first viewing of this updated policy, and then will be approved at our next board meeting. And then it is up to the district to follow the protocols that the board has set forth. So I just wanted to make sure people are clear what the role of these policies are and how we monitor how they're being followed. So Annette, I don't know if you want to piggyback on that.
That's a good idea, Tess. The process is such that we get a first reading and get a chance to look it over, all the policies actually, and ask questions, maybe make suggestions, and bring it back to the board. And that's pretty much how the board policy protocol works. So I want to thank both you and Annette for doing it, because there are an awful lot of board policies, and they are subject to review and revision periodically, and it's very time consuming, somewhat thankless, but meaningful job. Okay.
Yeah, I would add, I think that was a great point to make, Tess, and just that the policies are what we use to help determine how to operate the district. And so we do add these policies that are specific to our district or change portions of policies that are specific, but much of the policies that we adopt are monitored or created with the idea to keep us in compliance with all of the different rules and regulations that we have to live with. And it's really helpful to have the policy committee ahead of time be able to meet with each of the administrators who oversees each of those policy areas. And that allows us to ask those questions that, you know, affect our personnel. For instance, I'm looking at, you know, Craig and or that affect something to do with finance. And those are the real ways that we can affect change in the district overall. So, and I just wanted to thank both Tess and Tricia Zarovich in working on that policy, the new policy that we're creating, kind of, you know, cobbling together other examples on the mascot, because it's important for us to do this and do it in the right way. And this allowed us to set up a structure that will be able to have that rolled out really carefully and with great consideration. So thank you very much.
Okay, this is where we're going to miss Annette. She has been working with the California school boards for 20 years, maybe more, and has been a presenter on multiple levels, different topics. And when it comes to process, protocol, and finance, she is irreplaceable. Period.
Thanks, Carl.
You're very welcome. Okay, at this point, we're going to move to item C, ratification of the memorandum of understanding between the Carmel Unified School District and the Association of Carmel Teachers regarding issues relating to COVID-19 evaluations. Trish, you want to introduce this?
Actually, Carl, point of order, did you ask the public if there are any questions on that last?
I did not, and thank you,
Okay.
Tess.
You're welcome.
I'm giving a lecture about how to do that, and I did not even do it. Is there anybody in the audience, still in the audience, that would ask any questions about board policy, or in particular the Padre, the one relating to the Padre?
Carl, there are actively 15 attendees, and there are no hands raised.
Right. Sorry about that, Tess. Of course, board policy is always one of my favorite items, as you know. So having said that, I will follow the protocols. Okay, let's go to item C. Tricia, do you want to introduce the MOU, or do you want to just move?
Actually, Carl, I'll be introducing that, if that's okay. So just for a little bit of information, just as a reminder to the board and the public, the collective bargaining agreements and the MOUs, or memoranda of understanding, are terms that refer to agreements that are reached between the district and bargaining units related to conditions of employment. And those are usually for an agreed upon period of time. So in this particular case, the MOU with CSEA has been developed to address impacts and effects on conditions of employment for classified employees due to the current COVID-19 pandemic. Within this MOU, the following topics are addressed: health and safety practices, which include universal safety practices, PPE, cleaning and sanitation, individual health protocols, facility control procedures, transportation and food service practices, work hours and duties and flexibility for assigned work duties during this time, and accommodation requests, the interactive process and leaves, training on hygiene, screening of bargaining unit members, and testing and tracing. And that this MOU shall remain in effect until June 30th, 2021, or the lifting of the state emergency, whichever occurs first. And I'd also like to point out that we've placed a button on the district homepage so that everyone, whether they're members of the district or members of the public, can find the approved MOUs more easily and more quickly. And I would like to thank Bud Libby and his team for their work in coming together with the district around these kinds of things. It's the work that we've done together that's been able to allow us to continue to move forward and support students in this model that we're working through right now, and will allow us to do so as that
I have
shifts.
a process question for you, Craig. There's been some question in the district about who is involved in the MOU process. It obviously is not a student event. I don't believe parents have access to MOUs between the district and the employee groups, but can you please tell us how that is structured?
So they're typically representatives of the bargaining unit. There's considered the exclusive representatives. And that varies depending on the time and the topic, but typically it's a core group of individuals that also meet with members of a team from the district, which depending upon the topic can vary. In this particular case, it involved Trisha Dellis, myself, and a few other individuals, but it's also reviewed from the perspective, because it involves a lot of individuals. It will involve individuals within the bargaining unit as they're talking to their membership, but it also will involve our administrators in the district, who are also responsible for kind of carrying out the MOU after the fact. So we want to make sure that everybody understands it and it makes sense to everybody. So the parties that will be responsible for it typically are involved.
Thank you. Very good, very detailed. Does anybody on the board have any questions about this particular item on the agenda?
I don't have any questions on the MOU in particular, but I do want to thank you, Craig, for making the MOUs more searchable and able more easily to find on our homepage. I know that we'd received a lot of feedback and a lot of comments that these items were not easy to find. So I appreciate you making that happen very much.
And I would think Trisha Zarevich, who facilitates many of those things. I don't want to have that go unnoticed as well. So it's a partnership here at the district office as well.
Thank you.
And it's a very good point. Very good point, Sarah. Digging around trying to find the MOU prior to its current location was a bit of a task. It was, but typically in the past, we've never really had much interest, but we do now. And so I appreciate the moving it forward. Is there anybody in the community that is listening that would like to comment or weigh in on this particular?
And Carl, just one last point of order here. With regards to that button, that's where approved MOUs will go, because this is consideration by the board this evening. It would not go on to that button until after it's been approved by the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so there is no previewing of it, not public.
Except on the agenda.
Except on the agenda. Anybody in the community wish to respond or to weigh in? Okay, hearing none, we would need a motion.
There is one hand raised.
Oh, do I have a hand? Please, by all means.
Sorry, I think Paul might have stepped out and I didn't know. Hold on one sec.
I am here. I'm having trouble hitting my unmute button. So there is a comment. There's a hand raised from Jill Marie Lewis. So Jill, I'm going to give you permission to speak. And you should be set to
I
go.
think I'm unmuted. Thank you. So yeah, is this just for classified staff that are now working at the school or teachers with students? So it's different than the MOU that we signed earlier that was just with the teachers, or for the teachers on going back to school or not. And if it is different, and if it's for the classified staff or those staff that are actually working right now with cohorts and students, I was wondering, why are the guidelines not as strict as the other MOU? Because the other MOU says that we must follow, for each item, we must follow the strictest of either federal or state or any other guidelines. So if there's, if you need 2 fans in a room on one guideline and 1 fan in a room on another, you need to follow the 2 fans. And this one doesn't have that stricter language. And so I was wondering, why the difference, especially because I know our staff that are with the students now don't get paid as much as the teachers. So I know that, it's just like they're taking a risk, and I wanted to know why the rules were less strict. And then also, I just wanted to thank you about the buttons, because I know, like Carl has said a couple times tonight, there wasn't as much interest before, but now we're in a pandemic and people are out of school. So there's a lot of interest. So I really appreciate you putting the MOUs and anything that's signed with buttons on it, like Santa Clara does. It's super clear and it's much easier to find. I've had several parents write me about the teacher's MOU and they couldn't find it for, half an hour or something. They still couldn't find it. So yeah, that's a great change. Thank you.
Craig, do you want to respond to that?
I always wait for your direction, so thank you. In regards to the MOU, yes, it's specifically for the classified staff members. That's the bargaining unit that we were having conversations with around this MOU. And it is different from the prior MOU in that related specifically to our certificated bargaining unit. With regards to the MOU and the facilities and the rules or the responsibilities, it is actually contained within the second paragraph within this MOU, which is consistent with actually our teachers MOU, and that will follow guidance from the CDC, the CDE, which is the California Department of Education, the California Department of Public Health, Cal OSHA, Monterey County Health Department, and the Office of the Governor. So all of those same bodies in terms of guidance around the various aspects of the work that we do as a district are also referenced within the MOU that relates to our teachers unit as well. And so we're being consistent in terms of the development of those practices for all of our employees. And we do have certificated staff members who are coming into the building, and we're requiring them following those protocols, even if they're just coming in to use the internet because theirs might be unstable as they're providing service to students as well.
And Carl, it looks like Jill has a follow-up question.
That's fine. Let's hear it.
Okay. Oops. Wait a minute. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe her hand was just still raised before. Are you still there, Jill? There we go.
Hi, yeah. So no, that didn't really answer my question because I know it lists all the same agencies as the teachers, accredited teachers, or however you call that, MOU that we passed prior to this, but it doesn't say we will follow the strictest of each. That actually is kind of a sticky point for me because I do worry that there can be a lot of pushback from starting school because we don't get the strictest of each. So I'm just wondering why that language is left out of this one and it was included in the other one. Thank you.
Craig.
So I don't know that I can adequately respond to the question that's being presented at this time. I'd be more than happy to reach out to Ms. Lewis and have that conversation with her in regards to that component so that I can go ahead and make sure that I address it fully, if that's the direction you'd like me to take.
I would like to, is that going to work for Jill? Jill, are you there?
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I would, if that actually happens, I know about the budget. I wrote to Trish and Yvonne never actually emailed me back. So if he's actually going to email me and we can follow up outside of a public meeting, I would really appreciate it. Because I would love to know the answer to that question. It's something that concerns me a lot. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay, any other hands, Paul, at this point?
There are no other hands, Carl.
Then we would need a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion to ratify the MOU amendment between the Carmel Unified School District and the Association of Carmel Teachers regarding issues relating, I jumped agenda. Yeah, sorry. Make a motion to ratify the MOU between Carmel Unified and Carmel School Employees Association, Carmel Chapter 190, regarding the COVID-19 work environment.
Second?
Board President Carl Pelestrini,
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver,
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastek.
Yes.
Okay, so moved. Let's go to item D. Ratification of the Memorandum of Understanding, the MOU, amendment between the Carmel Unified School District and the Association of Carmel Teachers regarding issues relating to the COVID-19 pandemic and evaluations.
So I also have this particular item. This amendment to the MOU relating to the COVID-19 pandemic is specifically related to the conditions of employment for evaluations. The evaluation process is outlined in the collective bargaining agreement in Article 9. This amendment provides for the continued evaluation of staff members based upon the timeline options within Education Code 44664. The amendment provides for an adjustment to the number of evaluations for district first-year teachers while still exceeding the minimum requirements outlined in the Education Code. Finally, the parties previously reached an agreement to pilot a new evaluation process, which was suspended in 1920 due to the pandemic. And the parties also agreed, the district and ACT agreed, to meet, discuss, and reach an agreement prior to the end of this 2020-2021 school year on a new implementation timeline. So an MOU that's an amendment to the original one in the scope of only the evaluation.
Correct. And it exceeds the minimum, which should be, noted. I don't have any particular questions. There's a board.
Actually, I only have one, Craig. What was the change to the 3 quarters? Is that just because of the timing?
That was because of the timing. It was felt that with the beginning of the year and all of the other changes going on, we needed to give teachers a little bit more time at the beginning to get their feet under them.
That makes sense. And thank you.
How about the community? Anybody listening in out there that would like to ask questions or thoughts?
Seeing no hands, Carl.
No hands would require a motion.
Okay, now I've got the right one, Carl. Motion to ratify the MOU amendment between Carmel Unified School District and ACT regarding issues relating to the COVID-19 pandemic evaluations.
A second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Tricia?
Board President Carl Palestrini?
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines?
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver?
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastak?
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Craig. Well done. Appreciate it. Item E, quote authorization to purchase a UPS battery for the district office under the SPURR SPUR master contract number SMC-ER-028. Who has this? Paul?
This is me. And I just noticed tonight that this was also placed under the consent agenda, so you may have already acted on it. But just to be clear, you've already allowed us to join the SPUR master contract. We've applied for E-rate funds. They've approved the E-rate funds. So now in order to make the purchase of this, it's a battery system for our main district. All our main servers are served by this battery, and the one we have is getting old. So this would authorize us to use that SPUR contract, to use that quote that's been attached, and purchase those batteries.
Does the board have any questions? It is interesting that we did already approve this under consent.
Yeah, I think the business office and the tech office did not clarify who was doing what on this one. Sorry.
That's no worry. I'm just questioning whether we'd need to do it again. I think it's already been approved. Annette, you're my consultant on this.
I would just approve it again, just in case.
I don't happen to see it on the consent calendar, so I think it's better safe than sorry.
I agree. Needs anybody in the community want to weigh in on the district battery?
I do not see any comments out there.
Then we'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the purchase of a UPS battery for the district office under the SPUR master contract number SMC-ER-028.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Board President Carl Palestrini?
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines?
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastak?
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver?
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur?
Yes.
Thank you. Thanks.
And Carl, I did find it. It's C B under the consent calendar.
Correct.
Yeah,
But
thanks for doing that. And that I'll sleep easier, because with the rolling power outages and the storms coming up, this will help me sleep easier at night. So thank you.
And no worries about it being posted twice. It's better than not being posted at all. How about that? Okay. Let's go to item F, which is the request for Follett Destiny Resource Management Vendor Amendment Approval. Who has this particular item?
That's me, Blaze. This is simply just an amendment to our existing agreement with Destiny. We purchased some new remote scanners for our textbooks and library books. The librarians thought would be very necessary the way we were doing business this year with drive-throughs and what have you. It turned out the older version of the software that we had would not work with the new scanners that we purchased. And so we had to upgrade to their new software, although there was no cost for this year. And it's only, we're going to be increasing by $75 yearly starting the next year, but it's a much better product now for us and much more mobile. So that's what we have here.
Questions from the board? None. How about the community? Anyone out there wish to ask questions?
Oh, there are no questions out there.
Okay, would need a motion.
Move approval of the request for Follett Destiny Resource Management Vendor Amendment.
Second.
Second.
Moving to second, Trish.
President Carl Palestrini,
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastek,
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver,
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Thank you. So moved. Item H. J-13A, request for allowance of attendance because of emergency conditions. Who would like to explain this?
Actually, we're on G.
Yeah, we skipped one.
Did I miss one?
I think we're on G. The
We
request.
are, and I missed it. Sorry about that. Item G, request for Paper Education Incorporated vendor agreement approval. Who's got the paper on that?
That's me. That's me again.
Mhm.
And this is a really neat opportunity and product that I'm bringing to you tonight. I also mentioned it in the Learn Continuity Attendance Plan. This is a 24/7 chat-based tutoring program that we are going to purchase to bring to our English learner students between 5th grade and 12th grade, as well as our recently reclassified English learner students. I learned about this through people at the County Office of Ed and some other folks in other districts, and it's a really, really neat program. Other districts that have purchased and are jumping on, La Cañada, John's Old District, Irvine, Laguna Beach, Long Beach, Pasadena Unified, are all jumping in on this. It's a really, really neat way for kids to get instantaneous access to a tutor through a chat. And it syncs to Aries. So if they're in their math class or they're in math, they can click on their math teacher's icon. It'll bring them into this system. Within 30 seconds, they'll have a math tutor who's a college student or a grad student who will work them through the Socratic method. So they're all trained in the Socratic method to help students work their way through the problem. There's no getting an answer. If they had a test tomorrow, they could go in and say, I'm having a problem with this type of problem, and they could work on that. The neat thing is that the teachers, because it's linked through Aries, the actual teachers will have access to the conversations. Everything is transparent. So teacher A, the math teacher, can go back in and go into the system and look at what was that student working on with the tutor, and look at where they were having problems, where they were struggling, and actually will know more about that student's thought process. It's really, really neat. There's also an essay upload component with a 24-hour turnaround, and readers will review and provide feedback on the conventions of language and what have you. And also, if there's issues with content, we'll push them towards their teachers to work on what their teacher was trying to get them to do. They also can access subjects outside of their schedule. So a student could theoretically want to go on and learn more about computer science, could go on and ask tutors questions and learn on their own. And so part of that, we wanted to increase and improve services for our English learners. I think this is a great way to start. And I think we're going to be looking at using some of the CARES Act funding for this year to be able to cover the costs. Some districts have gone, larger scale, provided to all their high school students and what have you. We wanted to ease our way in. I will have some extra licenses available within the 100 that we are purchasing that we could push to some of our homeless students and other students who are struggling or have a need that are identified by the site. So there'll be a little reserve there that we'll be able to use, and the other sites will be able to use as well. So I'm asking that you approve this vendor agreement so we can get the ball rolling on Paper Ink for our students.
Sounds to me like a pretty valuable piece of software in terms of what it can do. Sarah, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just had a quick question, Blaze. This software sounds incredible with all of the features and functions it'll provide our ELL students. And my question is around training and the rollout of this. What does that look like for the teachers, and then also for our ELL students who will be using this? Because since it is 24/7, they're obviously using it without a teacher. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so we will, once we have agreed with them, they will then provide us with some training materials. We'll be looking at developing something for the teachers. I talked to Colin about this a little bit, but we'll be putting something together. We don't have the whole plan on the actual rollout yet because we really need to get it in our hands to see how we will do that. It will take probably a few weeks for us to get that process taken care of. We will focus on the ELD teachers because they will be like the primary folks that we train first, and then we will train the other staff members about this, that they have access to their EL students within the system. So it'll be a roll through some different things, but Colin and I are gonna be working on how we get that out, probably asynchronously to the staff that are non-ELD, and probably live meetings with the ELD staff, so they can kind of be the initial managers of the system, really watching and knowing it back and forth, so then they can help their other teachers on site when they're digging in on the kids.
Is there a component to this, Blaze, that will give some parents training as well?
I'm not sure. We can look at that. I'm sure we're going to roll that out to parents. It's not something we're going to put in the hands of kids without letting the parents know that, this is what the tool we're handing them. So we'll make parents aware. And I believe there are, parent materials. The nice thing is you can get tutoring in both English and Spanish. And so really valuable if you have a Spanish speaking parent. The Spanish speaking parent can go in with the kid when they're at home. They can ask questions in Spanish. That parent can help them in Spanish, even if the kid's doing the stuff in English. They can, have that interaction. So it does provide access for those parents as well to the tutors with their child. So yeah, there's definitely a parent component to it. We have yet to put all that together. Like I said, we're trying to get the contract in place, and then we will, once we receive the materials, we'll push forward on that.
Okay.
Blaze, besides Sarah stealing my exact first question, I only have one question now. When we're doing any type of pilot, one of the key things is what's the measurement to see success or not before we look to take it wider. So if you don't currently know what that is, it's either taking a survey or some measurement that you say that this is a success for the dollars. So do you have that in mind already? And if not, that's fine, because it can be put in place before we actually get through the pilot.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing will be a usage metric. We'll be able to look at how much is it actually being used. It's hard to put a success rate on, if it's hard to measure if a kid did better on his test because of, they had that. I think we can measure the amount that we're using it. And oftentimes with the educational software stuff that we have, a lot of what we judge things on is usage. How much is it being used? Is it valuable? If kids are not using it, then
I think that's a completely fair metric and very easy to measure. It's also something that is just simply a number. So that's great.
And I think we'll also survey teachers about, how they are able to interact in the system, if it's helpful for them to go back and see what the students are working on, if it's been of value to them. So we'll have some way to, vet that out with the teachers as we go forward with it.
And then as far as the seats are always can be something that's complicated. Is it the first student who gets it and then that's booked for the year? Or is it something if they're not using it, then we see the usage drop, which means we can recycle that seat.
Now, this is a single use, single.
So we
usage.
assign a student to that seat for the full year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and I have approximately 79 folks pre-assigned. It's going to leave me about 21 to play with in the initial. And I can always expand if we're finding success with it. It's something we can look at expanding to larger groups. I know Dan Morgan, when I told him about this, was like, I'm going to find my site budget and we're going to get this to, we're going to get this out. I said, well, let's hold on. Let's try it. Let's start with a group that we really want to see if it benefits, and then go from there. And if it's something that is really valuable and we see it really, and kids really like it and teachers like it, and it's really having a positive effect, then we can look at that. Things are not cheap out there right now. All these services and all of the online components we've brought in through the CNI budget, we've increased our budget.
It's also
quite a bit in those areas this year for the need.
I was going to say, Blaze, it's also possibly it's more effective at one level than another. It could be, but I think Todd's right. I think we have to get a database going and then draw some conclusions in how we would evaluate its effectiveness.
Yep.
But it sounds like a good deal to me.
Thanks,
Period.
Blaze.
Yeah, I think the one value is that it's something when we're in this distance learning, it's another way that a kid can get support when they don't necessarily have access to their teacher in the building right now. And even if we were in a hybrid, you're not going to be in the building every day. And so this is a way for you to have access when you're not in the building to somebody to help you.
How about community? Anything from the community on this particular item?
Yes, there's a question or a hand raised for Jill Lewis.
Okay.
Jill, there you go.
Again. Yes, it's me again. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I just see like a huge disconnect here because we're talking about something that might come out in a few weeks or a month. And like parents don't want any more distance learning. And we're in a deficit right now. And we're talking about spending more money on how to improve distance learning. And we're talking about not applying for a waiver until maybe November. I think you have to explain to parents that like, are you long-term planning on distance learning? Because from this plan, like adding new things and spending more money sounds like you're planning on distance learning for the rest of 2020-21 school year. I don't want Tess to have to be trained on something. I have a kinder, second, and fourth grader. I do not have 5 minutes in the morning between signing on to Zooms to drink a coffee. I can't be trained on something. I don't want to be. I just want my kids back in school. So I think there's just a huge disconnect. We have to realize that like we are suffering and our kids are suffering and we want to get off of this. And we've been hovering around 9 cases per 100,000 for the past 2 weeks. We have to be at 7 per 100,000. We're almost there. Like we're going to go into tier 2 and parents are going to want to know that we're going back to school ASAP, not that we're getting better at distance learning. Thank you.
Would you like me to respond, Carl?
Well, if you have a response, I mean, it's kind of hard to respond to, but go ahead if you wish. It's your call.
I think she's confusing what we're doing here. This is providing a service to our English learners and our recently reclassified English learners. This is something required. Well, it is required that we increase and improve services for our unduplicated students through our LCAP and our LCP. And this is one of the steps we're taking to increase and improve services for a specific subgroup of students. This would not be for every child in the district. This would be for English learners and recently reclassified English learners. So I want to clarify that. It would also be something that would be valuable for those learners, whether we were in full-time in school or out of school. It just happens in the current model, it happens to be really timely. But even if we're in school, and hopefully we will be in school full-time, this will be a valuable tool for those kids as well.
Jill, does that help explain that?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's still pushing something for distance learning. And so I think it's good that he explained that to the public, that this is something that would be very useful for, not just distance learning. And so that's something us taxpayers would actually support. We'd want our money to go towards something that supports, our second language students. But the distance learning part, it sounded like from above the trees, that you were talking about something that's just helping for distance learning. And that just concerns the public because we don't, foresee ourselves in distance learning for another 6 months. And it just sounds like the way everyone's talking about it, that you do foresee us in distance learning for another 6 months. So thank you for the clarification. And I'm all for putting my money towards that if it's something that can help these second language students in the future in distance learning or not. Thank you.
Okay. Well, at this point, board, I think we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the request for paper education vendor agreement.
And a second.
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 Okay, Tricia?
Board President Carl Palestrini,
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver,
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastick.
Yes.
Okay, and thanks for the clarifications on both sides of that conversation. Okay. Item H, J13A, request for allowance of attendance because of emergency conditions. Who has it?
This is mine, Carl.
Thanks, Yvonne.
Yes. So when schools close for an emergency, it is common to request a waiver from the California Department of Ed for the days that were missed. And the process requires the board to approve the application before submission. So I'm requesting approval for this request for allowance of attendance from the board.
Makes sense. Any questions from the board on the waiver? On the allowance, rather, for the attendance because of the emergency conditions. How about from the community?
I'm not seeing any questions, Carl.
Okay, then we would need a motion.
Move approval of the request for allowance of attendance because of the emergency conditions.
And a
I'll
second.
I'll second.
Okay, Tricia?
President Carl Palestrini,
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur,
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastick,
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Item I, approve resolution number 20-40, conflict of interest code, Carmel Unified School District.
That would be my item, Carl, and this will be brief, and it's our last item of the evening. This is an item that comes before the board every 2 years. It's resolution number 2040, conflict of interest code. It has been vetted by legal for any updates that we needed, and so we're asking that the board approve it this evening.
So it's kind of a boilerplate every 2 year.
That is correct.
Yeah, process. Any questions from the board? None? How about from the community?
None from the community, Carl.
Okay, then we would need a motion.
Move approval of resolution number 20-40 for the conflict of interest code.
Second, anyone?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded.
Board President Carl Palestrini,
Yes.
Board Clerk Sarah Hines,
Yes.
Board Member Annette Eastick,
Yes.
Board Member Todd Weaver,
Yes.
Board Member Tess Arthur.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, that really concludes the main part of our agenda tonight. We are at the final item, which is board operations, and the next scheduled board meeting is October 21st of 2020. And future topics, I'm not sure the board is going to be adding much to our plate at this time, but they might. Does anybody want to speak to future topics? Well, hearing none.
I don't think this is a future topic, or maybe it is, or maybe it's just
Let's see. Go ahead.
tactical ask. But Tricia, as we all mentioned, how valuable your town hall meetings are on a monthly basis, are you going to have or release out a schedule of when these town halls will be happening over the next couple months? Oh, I think you might be
muted.
Apologize. I announced the October meeting tonight, which is October 22nd. I'm a little bit reluctant to announce November, December, just because things come in So they don't come in consistently from the state or the county, the guidance and the things. And so I'm trying to pace us to give the information out when it's when it's the right time for it, which is why we're doing the meeting after the board meeting. We're doing the board meeting to have the board approve and hear it, and then we're taking it directly to a town hall the next night. So I'm trying to get them up as soon as possible. It's hard.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more. I know there was some discussion around opening our campuses earlier because of families and students wanting to go do PE and be active on our campuses before 4 o'clock, and seeing if that was an option. So I don't know if that's a discussion item or maybe just a note to add for your next superintendent's update.
Got it. I will do that.
Okay.
We have it on the agenda for next week.
Okay.
We're trying to stay focused this week on certain items.
Thank you.
But it is noted, and we want to be available and have healthy options for our community. So it's something that we definitely want to look at and pursue if we can.
Okay, with no other input, the meeting is adjourned. I want to thank everybody, both in the community and on the board, for staying with us, okay? Thank you.
Thanks, Carl.
Thank you. Good night.
Good evening.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.